legislature, media, and the people, organized labor, and civil society organizations. Issues that will continue to shape the future of our country needs continuous probing and interrogation.
I see the greater objective for the party, and let me tell you, I've told the PDP in some locations that, gentlemen, be careful. Better men have founded parties that have gone into oblivion. Where's the party of Awolowo? Where's the party of Azikwe? Where's PRP of Rimi? Political parties must be nurtured, they must be reinvented, they must be true.
Join Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ and Said Fuad on Midweek Politics every Wednesday 1 to 3 p.m. on Mainland 98.3 FM for thought-provoking conversations, voices from the top, engaging interviews, in-depth analysis on all matters around politics, policies, and governance. Midweek Politics on Mainland 98.3 FM, bringing the right perspectives to everything politics.
It's been reported that President Bob decades as president, that is 40 years. Let's see how it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Midweek Politics live on Mainland 98.3 FM. And as we also read at the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration Control, NAFDAC, launched a major enforcement operation simultaneously across all the southeastern states yesterday. An operation at Ogbo Market, Bridgehead Onitsha, Anambra State, led by Mr. Martins Iluyomade, seized large quantity of adulterated, substandard, and expired drugs in those markets. The exercise, conducted in collaboration with the Market Task Force, targeted dealers engaged in repackaging, rebagging, renumbering, and relabeling counterfeit drugs to deceive unsuspecting consumers. Welcome to Midweek Politics live on Mainland 98.3 FM. It's my pleasure to always have you join us every Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. 120 minutes straight of conversation, hardcore politics to the very roots. The best you can find anywhere, away from your regular news outlets, away from even digesting the copy of your favorite newspaper. I would always bring you everything you need to know about trending political conversation. And then we don't just scratch the surface, we take it beyond the surface. We get all of the elements involved in the news, the details that you need to know. This is basically investigation on radio. So it's always my pleasure to have you join us every Wednesday on Mainland 98.3 FM. We started off last year, and then we had 52 unchecked episodes of the show in 2024. And none of that would never have been possible if you've not, been on the other side, listening to us, joining the conversation with your calls, your messages, your contributions, your concerns, and everything you can imagine. We're streaming live, by the way, on facebook.com/mainland 98.3 FM, and also on youtube.com/mainland 98.3. And in case you're traveling out of town, Radio Garden's got your company. Just search for Mainland 98.3 FM. We are with you every single day, all the way, all the journey you make. I would always got your company. My name is Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ Mᴜ, and I don't get to run this show alone. It's a large space. A coming together of different ideas and opinions. And the bulk of same would always come from you, because without you on the other side, we have no business being on this side of the mic today. We'll also have The national chairman of the All Progressive Congress and the immediate past governor of Kano State, Malam Alhaji Abdullahi Ganduje, and he's talking about 2027, 2031, and where next. He said that after the tenure of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the North would return to power. Well, that's an interesting space. There's a man that had always been in the eye of the storm for the right or for the wrong reasons. I mean, sometimes you wonder if information management, especially at the political level in this country, is more like a circus, a space where clowns and people that have no idea on how to manage information or protect their own interests often find space to express themselves. Whether it's valid or not, the conversation on this show would express that. We'll have a soundbite for you, and there's Daniel Bwala also on the menu. Remember, I mean, it was one of those people that said, hey, the moment you join the APC, I'm trying to be civil with the word he used, but now he's on the books of the APC. Perhaps he's got some table manners right now, and the story is changing. But that is very synonymous, with Nigerian politicians generally. I remember when the PDP presidential candidate in the 2019 and 2023 election and the former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar left the PDP and came to the Action Congress of Nigeria then. And I remember build up to the primaries of the ACN, he was talking about the fact that, the PDP is a dead political party. The umbrella is torn, is this, is that. Well, he contested for the primaries of the ACN, and the current National Security Advisor, the former chairman of EFCC, that's Nuhu Ribadu, was given the ticket in 2011. And Atiku Abubakar left the ACN and went back to the PDP. So people were asking, the same house as you said was broken, at the same umbrella that he said is torn, is what you are holding on to now. And guess what? Back-to-back presidential tickets was handed over to him, whether by primaries, whether by whatever means you want to talk about. But in 2019, he was the presidential candidate of the same political party that he said the umbrella was torn. In 2023, the same thing. Now, it looks like the handwriting on the wall is getting clearer by the day. I mean, every single day, you read it in the pages of newspapers. You also watch it on your TV where people are meeting people. Well, same Alhaji Atiku Abubakar was in Abeokuta a few days ago to have a courtesy visit, according to what he said, because he refused to grant the president any interview. But he said, talking about days and weeks have seen so very much upon us. This is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. 2027 politicians, the way you go to politicians in this country that have been politicians for 20 years, this amount of 20 years that's ahead of the 2012 fit then. We have remembered very well. I monitored that time. It was single. In fact, issues of mismanagement of funds, Andrew, what happened? 300 million to renovate the little one. And I'm on the board, and we're going to do some choppings.
Where you are set, Jamin, you do but the question is, also you're not taking on in Liberia. If we can have the same of the same.
Baba Femi Ojudu, when stop saying,
and information from the presidency that is now in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, for the EU summit. But again, it's just very important that as we do this job, what it means really for a president to be out of the country on a private visit. There have been several private visits to France, and it's just very important that we ask some of these questions because
former President Buhari used to be the UK.
In the UK now, our president frequents France.
But he said he's a personal friend to President Macron.
For President Muhammadu Buhari, there was a bit of clarity as to why he was going to the UK. There were several, presidential releases that he was actually going there for medical treatment.
How did we know?
We know it was a bit clearer than what we have now. What we have now is to just say the president is going to France for a private visit and he was going to be speaking or seeing President Macron. It depends on the way you want to look at it, but I think there are still questions as to how we have our president always going to France, and the only thing we hear is that he's going there for a private visit. There's a lot to deal with at home, so if it becomes too much of a visit to France and it's not anything that is clear as to what the president gives to us, you can't blame Nigerians for asking those questions. Now, for the AU summit, we wait to see the president appear at the summit, and then we'll see what comes out of that. But, clear his role. His roles were clear. What he did, how he did everything. For example, I've seen people who have been talking about the fact that, okay, what exactly did El-Rufai do for the president? You know, there's that argument that too. Well, can he really say that? Look, he was a major factor on how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, won the last general elections. I've seen some of the supporters of the president who are saying that, look, it was just hard work that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu started this long before this Fourth Republic, and he has been very, tactical. He's been very methodical about his ambition to become president. At some point he told us that it was a lifelong ambition. So for anybody to now think that a man that did all he did, from becoming, senator, to becoming a governor, having to survive the onslaught of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo when the whole of the Southwest was almost captured, and he was the last man standing, to how he was able to strategically, merge the ACN with other political parties to form the APC, how he was not nominated as a running mate and he took it in good faith, nominated Osinbajo, and then waited for his own time to eventually becoming the president again, contested against, very experienced politicians like Atiku. Obi was on the ballot. It was a keenly contested election. So that it's just wrong to ascribe all of that to an El-Rufai that, maybe came in at the last minute and all of that. And what some of them had even said was that, look, if you look at the results of the last presidential elections, El-Rufai even lost his state, to Atiku. But there are people who are also reminding those that are coming up with that, calculation that, look, Buhari himself lost Katsina State to Atiku. He couldn't deliver for President Bola.
Tinubu lost Lagos to Peter Obi.
Tinubu even lost his own state to Mr. Peter Obi. Ganduje lost Kanu to Kwankwanso, who is now the chairman. Because if it's about who lost what now, we can
everybody got checked.
Everybody got at the last election.
There was a reality check for everybody.
Everybody. Ribadu lost Adamawa State. Atiku won Adamawa. And he's the NSA today. So it's about, winning your state is the yardstick for getting something.
Then nobody will get anything.
And even in Osun, Atiku won Osun, if you remember. He won in Osun State. Boyega Oyetola could not deliver his state. He lost, and all of the whole thing still went to Osun State. So if it's about who contributed what, we can clearly say that, look, El-Rufai was a major factor. Major factor, because at some point, in the presidency of President Muhammadu Buhari, there was this northern conspiracy. There was a northern conspiracy. Remember that at some point, the former chairman of the party from Nasarawa State, Adamu, said that, look, there was a consensus and that President Muhammadu Buhari had endorsed. It was not a statement of, it was not a rumor.
It was a press statement.
It was a press statement that, look, I've spoken with the president. At some points, this was the conversation in the APC, so remind ourselves of what happened. There was this conversation around Buhari saying that, look, you governors and party stakeholders, allow me to choose a successor.
Side forward, it was a released communique that the president did. Eight point communicate
that, look,
allow me choose my successor.
Your different states, respective states, I don't intervene. You guys choose who you want to choose. Why don't you give me the benefit of choosing a successor? So it meant that Buhari really wanted to choose a successor. All of these ones that, because I've seen people try to change the narrative. Buhari was not interested. He allowed the whole thing to play out. The problem was that Buhari wanted to choose a successor. He didn't know how to go about it.
And the handwriting was already.
He didn't know how to play the politics. That he didn't want to choose. He didn't want to choose a successor. He's trying to make a mess of what we knew about, what was clear, what was so evident. But it's one thing to have an intention. It's another thing to have what it takes to get that thing done. Here was a man that I'm sure had somebody in mind.
So when the talk of Ahmed Lawan started flying, it wasn't surprising.
But that intention became a bit ridiculous in the minds of their party faithfuls and even Nigerian. That how would a Buhari that just did 8 years
going to hand over
to another northerner? So it became problematic. Okoyemi, all the things Emefiele did could not have been by accident. They were deliberate. Withdrawing cash from the hands of politicians, the petrol scarcity that happened at that time, the money scarcity that happened at that, to have gotten to the point where they had to redesign the currency
so that they will make invalid the ones that are already in circulation.
who was it targeted at? What was the plan? Because again, look, you know, at some point they said it was because terrorists had too much money. Look, we knew that it was all political. The timing itself,
of which by then, at least results were already showing.
That, no,
people were not paying ransoms anymore.
It was not even about ransom. We knew that it was political, and we knew that. Look, politicians were stifled. I remember one of our friends, Minister Oni, was telling us that look, one of his principals, politicians, at some point was even doing dollars because there was no naira available to them. It was tough. It was a very tough election because of those indices. They could not mobilize their party members.
There was money in their accounts, but money couldn't come out.
Because at that, you remember the Emefiele even did it to the point where they were now releasing the thing small. You know, at some point they said you cannot. So everything the Emefiele did is the only one facing it.
Side for those times were tough.
But you knew that they were.
We were buying naira with naira
because at that time it was clear that the presidency, the president, had something in mind, and everything was about what the transition to the next government. And at some point, current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu candidate then came out to say that look, this was targeted at me. That all of them, you know, he was the one. Look, Atiku never complained about that situation. Peter Obi did not, other than the fact that the APC government was just making things tough for the people. But it was President Bola Ahmed Tinubu now a candidate.
Very vocal about it.
And some of the governors in the APC who were complaining that this was targeted at him. You remember the Abeokuta statement? That was what brought Emilokan. That look, it's obvious. Look, they might now manage those things now and say there's no problem.
Side fan.
Yes.
Let me hold your thoughts.
All right.
In case the people have forgotten what we're talking about.
Because again, we're getting to Erufai. That's why I started that way. Yes.
Add the 200. Add the Bible.
So those were statements that came as a result of the politicking that was going on. And I spoke with a lot of experienced politicians at that time who had said that, look, it was clear that Buhari really, from his body language, from the things that were happening at that time, which even party members and even the current president too alluded to, may not have wanted President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to succeed in.
Yes.
I also told people, Okoyemi, and let's be sincere with ourselves, there was no way a former Vice President Oshibajo would have been on the ballot without having a conversation with President Muhammadu Buhari, former president. He would not have been in that race without having a conversation. You know, I was trying to ask Senator Abafemi Ojudu. He kept deflecting. That look, it was as if former President Buhari threw him under the bus. So at that time, the former president, from all the things that we saw, the information we got, most likely didn't want to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to succeed in. But I guess he was too politically naive, politically inexperienced to sort that out. I guess too he was a man who had thought that, look, we had an agreement. I'm sure that pre-2015 there must have been an agreement between himself and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And so while his mind was telling him, don't hand over to this person,
there's another party saying, hey, remember,
you know, you
the merger, exactly.
No, there was a promise. You know, in Islam, and I assume that former President Buhari is a very strong Muslim. You know, there's something about when you make a promise, when you agree on something. I would have said this, I would have carried strong with it. So I guess in his mind, would I now renege on this promise? But the moment when people now thought that, look, this had become ridiculous, was when the chairman of the party now said that, look, Adamu now said that it was Ahmed Lawan that the president had endorsed.
36 hours to the primaries.
Remember that at that point there was confusion.
Yes.
It was also at that point that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then the candidate, was saying that, look, I'm not saying that they should not beat me,
but just let's go to the field.
Let's go to the field. If they beat me, I'll come back home. What I don't want is any consensus. Even though the people that will say consensus is bad there are people who preach consensus today. So politicians are not committed to anything.
It's a flip.
They can flip. It depends on their interest. But I remember that was the issue then. That look, and at that point it was already clear that, look, the relationship between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and former President Buhari was a problem.
I think the Ogun State declaration
It
where
was
he said he
that
cried
the
3
relationship
times on
had
TV.
cracked,
So
you know.
sorry to cut
Yes,
side. I
yes.
remember somebody was making the joke that because President Buhari was not in the country when that statement was made, and then somebody said, "Who briefed the president?" That the president does not understand Yoruba. So how did they explain it to him? Maybe the person that said the wrong thing because what
our ignoring who was the spokesperson?
Because Femi Adesina,
would have
what
done that,
Asiwaju said was that 3 times he contested and he cried on TV, but I told him to come. That will make him president, and to call the bluff of a sitting president at that level, less than 3 months to an election, you know that it's not your
strategically too. If you remember, there had been this rumor that Asiwaju will contest or not contest. We are talking about pre-election period now. Or was he going to contest or not? You know, would he contest? It was clear that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was going to run. And at some point, people said that it was strategic when he went to meet Buhari to inform him that I'm contesting.
So I'll buy the form and I will contest.
In case you have somebody in mind, you just know that. So how you now want to bring somebody out?
I don't know.
Because it would have been a case of Buhari saying that, but Asiwaju never told me that he wanted to run. So you saw that he went straight to the Aso Villa to say, Kumalo.
That was where he first made his declaration.
That, Oga, I am contesting. So whether it's Oshibado you are having in mind, let me know. So how you will now look at me face to face
and say I have someone else?
But you know, D.M. Saka always saw something that former President Buhari is a self-preservationist. As much as he appears to be a very strong, principled man, I think that when it comes to taking critical decisions at critical times, he falters. So you see that sometimes he's so undecided. Remember Abeokuta when Amosun was misbehaving and campaigning against the party. And then former President Buhari went there and said, for president, you vote for me. For governor, do it anyhow. Where you had APP having their flag at APC rally.
Have you forgotten that after the primaries,
yes,
the same Amosun went to present the candidate of APP
and
to Buhari,
and
Buhari raised his hand up in Abuja.
In Abuja. And then at that point, the APC had a candidate. So you understand that here is a man that is almost like, you know, I think the only time you see him being very decided and decisive, is when that thing concerns his own interest. Remember that when he was going to recontest again in 2020, in 2021.
No, that's 2019.
2019, yes. Sorry, 2019.
That's 2018.
You could see that every other thing
didn't matter.
That didn't matter. President Buhari, former president, wanted to contest, was going to. I remember the journalist even told him that, oh, if you lose, what will happen? He said, I cannot lose. He was very definite about it. So, pre-2023, that was the problem. A man, I think the former president really wanted somebody. He said it. Let me choose a successor. So when that thing filtered into the political space and the APC, that look, it was Ahmed Lawan.
And the progressive governors called it.
Who led those governors to meet with the president? And El-Rufai was at the forefront of it all to say, no.
This was not the agreement.
El-Rufai
campaigned for a southern presidency as
he said that
from the word get-go.
As much as Mr. President, sir, we respect you. We want you to have a say in who becomes your successor. But an Ahmed Lawan, after 8 years of the northern region, is ridiculous. How do we sell this to the public? He said it. And so when they said they went to meet Buhari, Oga, this is what we are hearing, but we assume it's rumor. Tell us to our face that this is your decision. Buhari said no. Let everybody go to what?
To the field.
Go to the field.
And I like how he came to the primaries.
And El-Rufai, these were the people. And what they did was to now come to the primaries and see who will come and talk about consensus there. Look, it might have taken President Tinubu over 20 years to plan to become president. But you cannot erase history about defining moments of very important things that happen to ensure that you eventually won that seat. Those moments for me are critical moments that are returning to the south was sustained. One governor that stood. Look, you know, El-Rufai can be very, very strong. He could have gone into a bargain with his northern brothers. Who says?
And he will have won big because he has a lot to bargain with.
A lot to bargain with. He could have gone into Atiku to say, okay, we could make it a northern agenda. There are bargains that happen. The worst that will happen is after the whole thing has been done, it will defect or things will happen. But he stood his ground. El-Rufai, he moved around with him. I remember the London dance, Buga, Abi, where the president was dancing. You know, El-Rufai was there too.
Yes.
Fayemi was there. The current minister of works was there. The victory dance, where the president too was doing Buga and all of that. Rufai was there.
Rufai answered most of the question at the Chatham House prior to the election.
And at some point when they were doing this Kaduna Investment Summit in Kaduna State, when the president went there, I think it was president-elect then, he told El-Rufai that, look, you have to promise me that you will not leave this country. You're going to work with me. And I've asked a lot of the supporters who are trying to now, change the narrative to say that, look, before the president nominates someone for Senate screening, at least in the minimum, my mind tells me that there would have been briefings from the security operatives.
Absolutely.
I'm sure the DSS would have done profiling because the list did not just emanate and landed at the Senate.
True.
It took the president also almost 5 months, really, if you remember, to put the list together.
He came in on the eve of the day the 6 months was supposed to
be. So, because we are already saying that, was the president going to wait like Buhari for 6 months to choose his minister? It also took some time. And so, that time, I'm sure there would have been checks by the DSS, checks by the NIA, checks by, to ensure, I'm sure that should be the standard. I'm assuming that that's the standard before it now gets to the Senate. But how the whole thing now played out, that El-Rufai was not confirmed, is still a mystery. For those that are saying it was a security report, even if there are 100 security reports, if the president wanted El-Rufai,
of course, side forward, of course.
So you cannot blame a man to feel sad, to feel bad about that humiliation. For me, nominating me in the first place and dropping him in that manner is enough humiliation. It's very humiliating of Krind.
I mean,
please.
That was quite, don't leave the country. Presentation, the idea, the president, the perception way for he now started getting a little support in the world. She seen Predator, the one which you at the federal level where he was.
Naira misappropriation
immediately.
against him.
So I'm expecting not to in politics.